Yo, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Power to the People Radio, the People's Podcast, your nonstop shop when it comes to financial freedom, mental health awareness, Black excellence, and a whole bunch more. It's your host, Hugh Huncho, on the
And
mic, and my co-host.
Trey here with another banger. Let's get to it.
We got a lot to talk about today. Basically, just kind of recapping from not only our last episode that we dropped, but just expanding more. Expanding more. Today's topic that we have is basically kind of just addressing the biggest elephant in the room, and that's systematic racism, not only in the inner cities of Black and Brown communities, but also in the corporate world. I believe that systemic racism, in my perspective, is definitely dwindled in the past recent years. More Black and Brown people are getting more corporate jobs and positions. However, the effects of systemic racism, they still linger, right? They still persist, not only when it comes to like the mental aspect, right? Mental health awareness, but also on the spiritual aspect as well. A lot of people aren't spiritually aligned, right? They're not spiritually aligned with themselves. They're not spiritually aligned with God. They're not spiritually aligned with like either a higher power or whatever power that's inside of them. And I do believe that it stems from slavery. What's your thoughts
Sure.
on that, Trey?
No, I think so too. But first, before we dive into that, I want you guys to understand the definition of systemic racism. So there's a lot of things that are being thrown out there, but I'll give you guys the exact definition. Systemic racism is basically when you have a group of people that have less opportunity because of entire systems that have been in place that are racist, not people, but entire systems.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a plethora of examples that we're going to go over. But just to give you guys a brief summary of what that's going to look like, it looks like we have those issues in political, economic, and social systems.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure you guys have an idea of what we're talking about, but we're going to go ahead and unfold that for you guys. But before we do that, so let me ask you, I did hear you say you don't feel as though it's that big of a problem in today's society. What makes you say that?
I would definitely say that it's still like a problem. I would definitely say it's become like a lesser problem, just due to the fact that the same things that was plaguing Black and Brown people in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they no longer exist. Back then in the 60s, 70s, if you were Black or Brown walking down the street, you had to literally watch when you walk down the street, who was around you, because
Sure.
it could have just gone, you could have just looked like the description of another person, and then you would have had to have some kind of interaction where the cops were either there, questioning you, stopping you to frisk you, right? Whatever the case may be. Nowadays in 2024, if you Black and Brown, you could go to Walmart and you don't have to, you're not really thinking, this cop might stop me right now just because I look like somebody that, stole a car 2 weeks ago. You see what I'm saying?
Let me interject right there because I beg to differ, bro. I feel as though like it's not as extreme as it is back then, but that fit the description category is still
Yeah.
prevalent in today's society. And I'm a prime example, bro. I used to drive a hoopty like 4 or 5 years ago. You feel what I'm saying? I live in a pretty nice neighborhood. So, one day I was driving and there was two cops that was on a median. And what they did was they followed me home, bro. Like I ain't gonna lie, I was scared for my life. I'm like, yo, what is they doing following me? And I was very irritated. Got out the car and was like, man, what are y'all doing? They just rode past me. But that's one prime example to counteract what you're saying as far as like to fit the description. Because if you're Black and you're driving a not so good car or you got tents, you blasting music, if you drive a SRT, my brothers, they looking at you thinking you a drug dealer, you know what I'm saying, first quarter. So like I say, it's not as extreme as it was back then, but it's definitely still prevalent in today's society when it comes to that specifically. But there's a few other examples that I want to get into. But let me ask you though, is there any room? Would you say there's any room for excuses when it comes to this matter, as far as Black people saying, well, the system is just not built for me, so that's why I'm this way, or the system has the odds against me, so I can't, what I'm saying, live the life that I want to live. Does any Black brother or sister have room to say that? Yes or no? And if not, what makes you think that?
The reason why I say there's not really a lot of room to say that anymore, because I believe what it does is that it points the finger, right? Instead of kind of looking at, okay, what can I do to change the situation? I'm pointing the finger at the circumstances of the situation, right?
I see.
At the end of the day, the only thing that we could control is what we can control, like our own thoughts, actions, and belief.
Okay.
So, and I'm gonna kind of rebuttal to that exact example that you gave, right? The cops, they followed you. You might have not known exactly why they were following you for whatever reason, but you see how that thought process went into you not only being in more of a paranoid state.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But they just drove right past you. You feel me? Nothing really actually happened in that particular instance. Back in the 60s, 70s, they was gonna stop you.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. Even if you didn't do nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So systematic racism, it's not as prevalent, but the effects of it still linger and they still persist in the mental aspect of how your thought process went in that particular situation.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
Because I'm a black man. When I leave and I drive down the street, if I see a cop, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna drive a little bit safer, 100%. Right? Not even just due to the fact that I'm black, just due to the fact that the relationship between black and brown people and the cops, they just haven't been the best through history. Is a white person gonna still do that same thing? Probably not. He's probably gonna still drive just how he is, like how he just regularly drives.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have that what you can say, that perceived notion of what may transpire, what may go down, right? Because these stories, right, they leave trails, they leave effects on our lives.
100%.
You feel me? All right, George Floyd. We don't, even now, I think it was actually his anniversary. I think 2-3 years ago. He was in his car. They pulled him out of his car and then they put him on the ground. Right? You see that is a traumatic experience. That now you're gonna start thinking, what if I'm in a George Floyd situation?
Right.
Right. But a person who's Caucasian, they never seen that like publicized on the internet, where a white person was just driving, pulled out of his car, slammed to the ground.
Exactly.
It didn't blow up. So he doesn't. When you see those things, you start thinking, "Oh, it could happen to me." You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say there's not as much room for people to have that as an excuse anymore is because if we think about it, right, our president, the president before our last two presidents, right, Biden and Trump, was black, right, Barack Obama. Not saying that he was the best black president ever, but the fact that he was able to just get into that position showed that there's more wiggle room for black and brown people. Now, what most people say is that, he went to Ivy League school, he had, a white mom and things like that, right? Yeah, those are things that definitely play a factor into it, right? Those are things that definitely play a factor into it. But at the same time, right, when we really talk about it, if you have a college degree and you have a good GPA, right, you're able to do good on the interview, most companies right now, they're looking past that race card because they need people who are actually really productive in their system. But now the problem comes into play when you don't apply to that job because you're thinking in your mind, oh, I'm black, they're not even going to take me.
Right.
So how many people aren't applying to these positions that they would have gotten just because they already had that perceived notion
and thinking that they won't get the position?
I won't even get it.
I will say if they're doing that, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Go ahead.
They're shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
One more to that is that imagine you go to the job interview and now instead of thinking like, okay, yeah, of course, right, we live in a system that was predominantly created by Caucasian people. But if you go into a job interview and you don't wear a nice suit or tie just because you have this conceived notion, oh, I'm black, they should just accept me how I am.
Right.
You're already starting on the wrong leg.
Right. Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? So the effects of it are still lingering in us mentally, right, and how we interact with one another. But the system itself is slowly dwindling and breaking down because it's very hypocritical to say, oh, you'll have somebody who's homosexual or transsexual, whatever the case may be. You let them get the job, but you want somebody black get the job.
Right.
That's very few now.
I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? That's very, very few now. So I think that's where black people really need to start really examining ourselves because we can't just keep pointing the finger at the master.
I agree with that, but I do want to interject in terms of a black person trying to get a job or whatever. There are statistics that show that people with the last name Johnson or people with the last name Williams or some women with the first name Lakeisha, for example, they are so much less likely to get the job than a Carrie or a Karen or someone with the last name Phillips or something like that, right? Why? Because they know not only do the names signify that they're black, but I really feel like it's the fact that it seems like they come from poverty, right? I honestly feel as though it might be the same for a white person that has a name known that comes from less fortunate white folks. Does that make sense? So I do agree with what you're saying, but however, there are still things that certain HR people look at, certain people of power who are hiring people, they look at certain things and it's red flags to them.
Yeah.
Like something as simple as someone's name. Their mom named them that. They can't help it. Now you could go to the justice system. You could go down to the courts and change your name. However, I do believe some of these names might be the reason why someone might not get a job.
Yeah.
Just think, man, if your name was, something outrageous, like something super ghetto, bro, you might not. The chances of you getting it is less likely. So I just wanted to counter that because we can't just say like there is wiggle room, however, but some of those things still get looked at. So we can't just miss that key point, right? When it comes to people trying to get a job.
No, 100%. No, 100%. That's why I don't want to, me, I'm a person, I never want to speak in complete absolutes or black and white because unfortunately that's just not how the world works. And I think because too many people think in absolutes or in black and white, that's why they either they just take that very narrow perspective on things. And what do I mean by this is that what you're saying is definitely 100% true. That somebody, their name could be like LaQuisha Fitzgerald or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And you just look at that name, you're like, more likely than not, you probably don't want to reach out to them for that job interview.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But then we have to think about how many people have like very radical names like that. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good amount.
A good amount. A good amount. And then when we start asking the follow-up questions, like, okay, where are you applying to? Like, what are you trying? What kind of job are you trying to get?
I want to add to that. Also, what credentials do you have?
Exactly.
Because I'm not going to lie. Sometimes people want to pay grade above their head. Like, what do you have to show on your resume that you are qualified for this position? Exactly. I do agree with you on that. Sometimes a lot of us feel as though we're entitled to have a certain position where it's paying such and such amount because we feel as though if we tweak our resume a little bit, I've been doing customer service for 5 years. Okay, but you're trying to apply for an IT type of job.
Yeah.
Where in your resume are you dealing with technology? You understand what I'm saying? So we also have to be mindful of the jobs that we're applying to, and we have to start to add some tools to our tool belt if we want those higher paying positions. Because 100%. If you're just looking with your hand out thinking, I don't know, you might know somebody who's gotten a position, but maybe they had someone who had an inside man, not an inside man, but put a foot in their door. They might have had a resource. So they didn't have to be as qualified. You're not looked at as the same sometimes in those predicaments. So,
and another reason why I feel as though that the system in of itself, right, I feel like the system itself is breaking apart because of anything that's built off of sand, muddy foundation is not going to last long. Right? It has to be built off of concrete brick. 100%. So the system, it was built off of muddy foundation. They was allowing for many years only predominantly Caucasian people to get some of these higher paying jobs.
Right.
Not realizing just because somebody is a different complexion or just because they come from a good household doesn't mean that they're going to be a good worker. Doesn't mean that they're going to, be innovative. Doesn't mean that they're going to bring value to your business, to your company. And then as of I want to say 2020, I'll say more so 2000s, as more African Americans started going to college, started getting their degrees, started leaving the military, they started coming into these workforce and working better than their Caucasian counterparts.
Right.
Started being more productive, more innovative. Like a lot of patents and inventions in the past 10, 20 years were from people that have black and brown background. Right. So what happens that some of these CEOs, some of these job owners, what they're seeing is that, okay, race don't really play too much of a factor of how good this employee is going to be. Right. It's really about his experience, right? What's on his resume, his credentials, and how he carry himself in that interview.
Right.
So I think what's happening where a lot of, black folks might be missing the ball is that they're applying to these jobs and they're not thinking about, okay, ask yourself, like, put the name, put the skin color to the side. It's like, why should this business owner, because at the end of the day, it's a business, right? You could feel entitled that you want a job, but at the end of the day, they have to run it like a business. You're going to think you're an investment as an employee. Why should they invest in you?
Right.
You feel me? Even though, you putting your time into the company, they still putting money in your pocket, right?
Exactly.
So if you come at that job interview and you don't have certain certifications, certain degrees or accolades or experience, that's where it might hurt you, right?
Okay.
And what I mean by this too is that now the whole threshold to get a higher paying job, it's not as much anymore. Right now, you don't have to go to college to get a good paying job. You can either go to a trade school that's more affordable. You can go online, get certain certifications for like technology, right? Yeah, you might still need to pay some money, and that's where that systematic racism could still play a factor, because now you think about it. Okay, this person who's from this white Caucasian background, their family might have a little bit more money. They could give you $100 to go take that certification test for you to pass that. If you're a black person, your parents probably might not be that financially stable. So now you got to work a job, you got to save your money, and you got to put that money towards getting that certification to, you know what I'm saying? So there's more work as black and brown people that we need to do 100%.
Let me ask you 100%. Let me ask you a quick question though on that note. So why do you think that it's more likely for someone of a white background to, graduate college and get a college degree than black folks?
Preparation.
Their
parents from an early age was already telling them, you got to go to college. When they went to college, either they already was being told about going to college for multiple years, so they already had that expectation, or they know it's an expectation or a bar that they have to meet for their parents.
Okay,
that's one. And the second is that they're going to college with a little bit less risk. Their parents are probably either applying for parental loans, or giving them money to pay off their tuition. Either they're living at home with their parents, or their parents are sending them money to eat while they're on campus. Not food stamps, but like more so food stipends for their college meals, things like that. Like white people, they're more prepared when they go to college. I went to a predominantly white institution, bro. These kids, their parents, their grandparents, like when they go to college, you see it's almost like a whole big family thing. They're helping them move, like their whole family's helping them move into their dorm room. When you see a black folk moving in, it's probably their mom and their dad. You see what I'm saying? It's their mom and dad, maybe a cousin. It's not like the whole family supporting it, because most of the family members didn't go to college. So now it's like you're the first generation. What they would call them, first generation college students.
Yep. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there. But you know why I feel like there's a lot of first gens? Because of the school system, K through 12, and how people are being raised in that school system. Let's talk about it for a minute, bro.
No, thanks.
all the kids of melanin skin, of black and brown, a lot of them go to school in the inner city.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, if you in the inner city, they don't even prepare you for college. They don't really make you think about college until junior year. But then at that point, it's like now you playing catch up, trying to get your GPA up, trying to get a high SAT, trying to apply to these colleges. But these predominantly white institutional high schools, they're preparing the kids since 8th, 9th grade.
Way beforehand. And not only that, when you're going to an inner city school, let's be honest, there's a lot of nonsense going on. You might got a lot of kids with behavioral issues. So some of the classes that you're in is hard to pay attention, right? Then if you're of that black skin tone, maybe this teacher sees you as the same kids who are acting obnoxious. And then you're not having as much retention on some of the subjects and some of the material that's being taught because of the disruptions in the classroom. That might be one thing. Another thing I would probably say is the fact that, I mean, bro, inner city schools is just, they don't get as much funding as the other schools. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so there's not a lot of material to help prep them for, college early on, because they don't get funding. Yeah. When you go to an inner city school, it's a public school, right? So they don't get that much money because taxpayers pay that. And in regards to, or in contrast to the white kids who go to, better schools, maybe they go to like private schools or something like that. They actually get the funding early on. So they're able to have better education, in those early years.
I want to definitely rebuttal on that point. And the reason why I say that is because I believe the whole K through 12 system in of itself, it's bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
It really is bullshit. Like, you're spending 12 years of your life, and then when you graduate, you don't really even retain or remember half of the stuff that you remembered. You wasted those 12 years for
Let's add on to it. Then they tell you to go to college for another 4 years, and then you end up graduating and try to get a degree or get a job in that degree.
And they still going to train you on the job that you're going to do anyway. So you're not even going to use half of the stuff that you learned in college, bro. So
but how many kids are just graduating and they feel like they start from ground zero?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So I definitely do believe that it's more. There's definitely more to it. Like I said, it's not just completely black and white. And I can give you another example from this. We'll move the education part to the side for a second, because at the end of the day, whether you in the 9th grade, 10th grade, 12th grade, you're going to take U.S. history, you're going to take science, you're going to take math, you're going to take English. And you're going to still have an SAT score on it. Still going to need to go to college, take similar subjects. what it is, it's not about the funding for the book material, especially now that we have the internet. Most assignments, you go on the internet to look it up, look up the information on it. The problem is that a lot of these communities are having funding for activities that the kids could get involved in, whether it's like softball, whether it's camping, whether it's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whether it's like, community service things. Like, communities that are predominantly Caucasian, they do things in their community to keep a certain kind of uplifted energy or like culture in a way.
Okay.
If you think about predominantly Black communities, what is really the only thing that they got going on besides school? It's the parks, it's the YMCA's. What are people doing? They're just playing basketball.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? Now, yeah, that's competitive, right? They get to have exercise, but think about it, right? Like just think about it. If our community is only having things like parks, YMCA, maybe a boys and girls group, but even then they're just really playing. But these other Caucasian communities, they're having camping, right? They're having Boy Scouts. They're having programs that are teaching collaboration and creativity over competitiveness. In our community, all of the stuff that we have is about competition, competing with one another. But in theirs, they're having going camping, kayaking, skiing. I'm like, yo, I didn't get to do none of this stuff as a kid. And you can say, oh, their parents are able to afford it. Man, cut that crap, right? They're making it affordable for the parents to put their kids in these programs. But and then the thing about it too, this is where I believe that systematic racism still do exist, because now let's say a Black person, they live in that community, right? They're more wealthy, they're a doctor, lawyer, whatever the case may be. They have a Black wife, they have a Black child. They try and put their child in these programs. The child is gonna feel some kind of prejudice, some kind of isolation, some kind of like, he don't belong here.
Yep.
Right? Racism could still be so subtle. You don't have to call a person an N-word for them to feel like it. You feel me? So it's so subtle that Black kid, now he doesn't want to go camping next summer.
Right.
He'd rather go to the YMCA and play with kids who look a little bit more like him. So they're creating this tribalism so subtly, so subconsciously, that when you're a parent, you're like, yeah, why would I put my kid in camp, pay $500 when he's not even gonna like it anyway? I'd rather just let him go to the YMCA that's free. I'm saving on money. You see what I'm saying? It's like the whole system in itself, it's built for it to it's like a system that perpetuates itself. It just keeps making itself going.
I see.
But the system is so faulty, it's so bad that as it keeps going, it's still breaking down and deteriorating. Because as more Black people get into positions of wealth, they're going to create programs and systems that are going to be designed for everybody. It's just that more Black people are going to go to it.
Right.
When you think about these church services, right? The Black churches, they do maybe community events. Sometimes they do different things, but it's mostly these really big white Caucasian churches that are going roller skating, right? Having car meets, right?
Like the nonprofits.
They're doing like a lot of nonprofit things to get the community out there. When you look at their congregation, it might be mixed, but it's still predominantly white. If you look at the congregations for predominantly black churches, they go to church, they might have maybe one extra sermon during the week. They maybe might do a community service activity where people get baptized, but not too many Black churches are doing like mental health days, right? Boys get to talk to older men and get advice, right? Ladies get to have a lady day. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm gonna have to disagree with that one, because I have definitely seen that in a few different churches where they implement that. I mean, I don't necessarily go to every single church, so I don't know about any other ones, but the ones I've been to, they definitely implement that with the nonprofits. They have a lot of engagement. They have a lot of engagement with the youth, getting education and getting wisdom passed down from the elders, right? They have days on where women come in and it's strictly women ministry, and they're talking solely to the women, trying to empower them on that. So I see what you're saying. I feel as though if we're not seeing enough involvement, maybe we don't have enough participants. Maybe there's not enough people attending these things for us to say, okay, this is something that we're actually doing. This is something that we're actually having a say in. We actually see the impact on some of the things that they're doing. But I feel
my question to that, right? This is my question to that, is that if we look at the numbers of how many Black churches there are, how many Black churches are doing that, that's one. And then what is the effectiveness of, or how effective are those programs that those black churches are doing? Because then when we start dissecting, we start realizing that numbers, like, it's a good amount. I'm not saying no black church is doing it at all. That's not what I'm saying. It's just for the vast majority of how many black churches there are. I'm not talking about just black American churches. I'm talking about black Jamaican churches, black Haitian churches. My dad is a pastor and my mom is a minister. I've been to a Haitian church. Not once did we have anything outside Sunday service and Thursday service. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? So, but when you think about it, the Russian churches, right? The European churches, the churches that are predominantly ran by people who are Irish, whatever the case may be, they're all doing something 1, 2, 3 times a year. You know what I'm saying? These black churches, they just now started doing these extracurricular activities as of maybe say 2010, 2014. Because of social media, they want to be on Instagram. They want to have more stuff, bring more people to the congregation, which is great. And that's how the system is slowly being deteriorated, slowly changing, slowly breaking down. But yeah, it's still prevalent, it's still here.
I see.
It's still prevalent.
I do want to segue into something else. That's another example of systemic racism that has a huge effect on the household of black people, and that's the criminal justice system. So we all know about the 80s crack epidemic, you know, when they dropped crack, and then a lot of people was either using it or selling it. And then I don't know how many people noticed, but crack cocaine is it's almost the same thing as cocaine, right? It's just in a rock form. Not sure. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys seen shows and movies on how to make it, but crack was for the people who were in poverty, the you know, of lower income, predominantly the black and brown people. And then cocaine, the users were white. But a lot of people don't know that if you got caught with crack cocaine, selling it or using it, the offenses and the time that you would get was, I believe it was almost, don't quote me on this, but it was almost like 4, 5, 6 times as much time as you would get if it was cocaine. Yeah. So that shows that they were literally targeting black people, because black people weren't doing cocaine unless they were rich. They was doing crack or selling crack. So when you have that epidemic and you have the whole justice system targeting your people had to get money. I'm not saying it was right, but a lot of people sold crack in the 80s. A lot of people to get money, because that was the new play back then, right? That was like I would say that was probably like scamming to today's effect. And then they would get caught, and then they would do so much time. And what did that lead to? Single mother households at an outrageous rate. Single mother households, and then that left you with a single child or a single mother raising a child on her own. And then that's a whole domino effect in itself. So let's talk about that.
Honestly, this is a topic that's real near dear in my heart, because I believe this is really the root of all problems that we're having nowadays, especially with black and brown people in the relationship dynamics.
For sure.
Right? The lack of a strong father figure in the household. And let me give y'all some real context, right? Because like now I'm really about to talk my shit. Like I'm about to give y'all some real
Let's get into it.
That when Kanye West said that whole slavery was a choice thing, at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was very mad at what he was saying. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Slavery is a choice? No. But when you start realizing the systems that they implemented to make slavery persist, and then how they continued the system even afterwards, right, through Jim Crow and then through the war on drugs, it was a choice. But we didn't know it was. And they purposely made it seem like we didn't have a choice. And what do I mean by this, right? So think about it in this scenario, right? Black people during the whole crack epidemic, for years, they did not know where crack even came from. They didn't even know what it was. They didn't even know what it was.
Yeah, they did.
For the first few years, they didn't know crack was cocaine, but just mixed with baking soda, right? And then boiled to a certain way, and then it turned into a rock form. You can't smoke cocaine. It's too powdery. It's just going to burn up. That's why you have to snort it.
Right.
That's why you have to put it in your nose. You have to snort it. That's why white people are doing it, because it's a little bit more of an elegant type thing.
Okay.
Well, when you have crack, right now it's in this crystal form, right, in this rock form, you're mixing the cocaine with baking soda. And imagine baking soda being lit with fire. That's how black people were taking it. They were smoking it.
Yeah.
They were smoking it out of a bowl, out of a pipe. You're literally causing a chemical reaction through the baking soda in heat, and you're inhaling it. It's not about the cocaine that makes people, you know, get all jittery. It's the baking soda it ignited.
Right.
It's that chemical reaction. They didn't know that for years. That's why you see crack. That's why you see somebody who's on cocaine compared to somebody who's on crack. They look completely different.
Completely different.
Like one looks more burnt out than the other one. Don't get me wrong. If you do cocaine long enough, you're gonna eventually end up like that. But for somebody, so for a lot of black people, it was ignorance. Ignorance doesn't mean being stupid. It means not knowing. They didn't know what they were consuming.
Right.
You feel me? They thought it was just a stronger version of weed, but no, it wasn't. Yeah. It's more addictive, right? Because now all the addictive chemicals that come from the cocaine, now it's being heightened through the heat, through the baking soda. So these black people, they were consuming it. Because think about it, right? You go to work, you deal with you working at a factory. You don't like it. It's miserable. It stinks. You're all tired. You come home. You got to deal with a bunch of kids, or you got to drive home stressed because you see cops down the street. You know what I'm saying? It's just a lot of anxiety. Of course, you're gonna go towards crack or cocaine or weed to kind of settle your nerves at the end of the night. What happens that this happens one night, right? You do weed enough, and then hey, maybe it's not hitting as much, or somebody tells you, oh, I got this new drug called crack. You try that, gets you super high, makes you feel even better. Now you do it the next night. And the next night, and then before you know, within 6, 7, not even 6, 7 days, maybe in like a week, 2 weeks,
hit.
You addicted. Now you want it every single time.
Snowfall?
Yeah,
the first hit, bro.
Yeah,
the first hit.
But cocaine wasn't like that. You feel me? So, and this is gonna segue into the topic that we have right about this letter. Even during slavery, they didn't know the system and the thing that was being implemented that was keeping them down, keeping them oppressed, keeping them slaves. Just like how in the 80s during crack, they didn't know that's what was causing multiple people to get arrested. They didn't know that's what was causing multiple people to have, health problems, mental health problems. Why so many homeless people? Why so many? You feel me? They thought black people were just lazy. No, This is a productive person that was super productive. He came home to ease his nerve, and he got hooked on crack, and then he became lazy. Then he ended up on the streets.
I want to interject though, for all the people who say, oh, black people make excuses and this and that, and you have all the resources necessary. There's no reason why you should, not be fortunate or whatever the case may be. Listen, that person is right to a certain point, but we have to acknowledge all the events that took place in history. And this is what we're highlighting right now. Like, we have to remember the crack epidemic. We have to remember the mental misery and the mental domino effect that slavery had and systemic racism. We have to remember these things so that we can propel forward, right? Because if we just forget these things that happen, like the public school system's trying to do, erase the history so that we can't really say where we've been and how much misery was done upon us, then there's not really any room for, any empathy, right? We're not looking for reparations. We're looking to empower you guys so you guys remember what happened, and so that you guys acknowledge some of the things and some of the mishaps on some of the mental health problems, some of the single households. I'm sorry, the single moms who are raising, kids on their own. So you guys know why things are, because they're always looking at black folks like, why are you guys shooting each other? Why are you guys killing each other? Why do you guys not marry as much? Right? Why do you guys complain so much? Why do you guys have this chip on your shoulder and this and that? Y'all need to understand there is a domino effect that's still being played, and until people acknowledge where we came from and what we've been through, then they're not going to know how to move forward. So this is what we're doing. But before we move into this other point, I want to also go over the fact that systemic racism has a huge effect in the housing market as well, right? There's this thing called redlining, and I believe it came out in the 1910s or the 1920s when black folks actually had a lot of wealth and a lot of power. A good majority of them did. And when they went to go get a loan from the bank, the banks denied them. They said you cannot get a house in this area, right? So redlining has effect to today because it lasted 70 years. It lasted 70 years, but we still see it in effect to today. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, I believe the bank was either Wells Fargo and it might have been Navy Federal, but they're more prone to deny a black person applying for a home loan than they are of an Asian descent or a white descent. So that goes to show that if you are still of color to today, I mean, you might have some trouble trying to get a house. It's a simple thing. You're trying to.
I want to interject with that real quick.
Yeah.
And this is where I believe that we had this system happening.
Mm-hmm.
And now that so basically it's like, now that we're consciously aware of this system, now we need to figure, okay, now that you know that you're in a trap,
Mm-hmm.
or now that you know that you have somebody like trying to finesse you,
Right.
now you have to be conscious and learn, okay, how do I play this game?
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, I really realized that there's no point in, and being mad at the game. You just got to learn to become a better player, because you can't change. You could change the game,
Mm-hmm.
but the only way you're going to change the game is by being the best fucking player at it.
Absolutely.
You feel me?
100%.
And what do I mean by this? And this kind of segues into that previous conversation, like how white people, they could go to college. It's because the preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Black people, we weren't prepared.
Right.
And they made this system so we wouldn't be prepared.
Exactly.
You feel me?
Exactly.
But this is the thing. These Caucasian people that created this system, right? I'm talking about people who are 60, 70, 80 years old, right? They didn't realize the internet was going to become a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the internet, we have this is the playing field, right? It's still a little bit tipped, but now it's more even because...
Oh, no.
It's more even. It's
I got to
interject.
The playing field like this, bro, we way behind, bro. Don't get me wrong. We have all this room to get up to here. But the playing field, these people are way up here, and we're still trying to get up there.
Yeah,
but
what I mean is that...
But we have a ladder now because of the internet. There's resources to get us back up here, but we have to have a collective effort to do so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So more so it's like, for a black person back in the day, they couldn't really get a house loan because the credit system, right? Credit cards came around, I think, 1913, something like that. They haven't been around for too long. But during that time, the only way that you was able to get a house loan is either you had collateral, you had a good name, or you were a white man. Literally, that was the only thing you needed to get a loan from the bank, is either some kind of collateral, you had some kind of good reputation around the city, they know that you do this. They didn't have the credit system that we have now for credit reporting to tell your eligibility. Once that credit system came about, the white people that were in college, that were in these positions, they knew about it, so they were able to put their kids as authorized users at early ages, put their children in positions early. Black and brown people, they didn't even know about the credit system until years after it already started gaining mass adoption. And then when they did started applying for credit cards, they didn't know how to be financially responsible with it because they weren't educated on how to be responsible with the credit card.
Exactly.
So that's why you see a lot of our grandparents' credit scores are shot. Not even because that they're lazy, that they don't know. It's because they were literally playing the game with a half deck of cards, right? Which isn't fair. Now, and this is why I say now, right? Because we got to talk about the present moment and what can we do to, I don't want to say get our lick back, but what can we do to be back in a better position? You see what I'm saying? Where now I can't say, oh dang, I can't get this this card note because my credit is messed up because my dad didn't teach me nothing. No. Right now we can hop on the internet. We can learn about credit. Now we can go talk to our black and brown brothers. Now this is literally why we created this podcast. So all of the information that we know, we could give it to you guys to empower you to make better decisions where the system won't affect you at all. You can move right through the system like you moonwalking through that bitch because you know all the tricks and gimmicks that they're doing. You know all the things that they're going to play to try and manipulate you to make you hate against your own black brother.
Exactly.
And this is how I had to be when I started really realizing how they took a lot of black men out of the household. I started realizing, let me hold myself to a higher standard of being a black man to prove to these motherfuckers, right?
Yeah.
What they did was wrong.
Exactly.
To prove to them that this whole stereotype or this whole stigma that they have around black men is not true at all. It's just something that you consciously, literally, bro. When you look at the music before the 90s was a lot more upbeat, was a lot more loving, was a lot more
peace,
holistic, a lot better.
For sure.
Literally, once they realized hip hop music was getting a buzz, what was hip hop music predominantly talking about? It was talking about the treatment that cops was putting black people under. It was aggressive. It was like, yo, like, I don't like how this dude is treating me. Like, you feel me? Like, it was supposed to be more of a start of a revolution for black people. And NWA, that was really what it was. It was more so of a revolution to let people know, like, yo, this cop is slamming me on the ground and I'm 14 years old, 16 years old. That's how old Ice Cube was when he was getting slammed to the ground when NWA started really popping off and he started making music. So what they did is that they took the hip hop culture that was meant to be preaching against the ban, right? Preaching against black brutality. What did they do? They grabbed all these hip hop artists, they brought them into a record label room, they put a bunch of money in front of them. They said, change your message. Don't be revolution anymore. Talk about ass, titties, and getting money and chains.
And we'll give y'all more money for that.
And we'll give y'all more money. And then you literally see the next decade, the music completely shifted. Completely shifted.
180.
You start seeing girls in the music videos, all that extra
video
stuff.
Vixens, all that.
You feel me? So literally, right? We have to realize that we're not playing a game of checkers. We're playing a game of chess, bro. And the people, whether they're people in power, they're thinking 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. So we gotta think 6, 7, 10 steps ahead at this point. That's the only way we could play catch up. I didn't say that the playing field is even. It's still not. But now we have more of a chance to put the ball in our court. You feel me?
For sure. I want to interject on that. I think for us to really like elevate as a people, we have to come under one consciousness, right? There's too much division. And the reason for the division is because of certain things that they have implemented in us mentally and emotionally for us to go against each other.
Facts.
I mean, if you think about some of the areas where people live in poverty conditions, I mean, that's anybody in poverty. That could be a white person in poverty. There's always going to be crime, right? There's always going to be, people selling drugs, and there's always going to be, things that you have to combat against when you live in those conditions. However, the things that they specifically do to keep us in that we have to beat them against. We have to rise against the odds, I would say. And how we do that, like I say, is coming together collectively and being under one consciousness. How do we do that? I think we have to first understand the root cause of why people are operating the way that they are operating. Why can't we collaborate anymore? What's the real reason as far as why I see my brother as competition? When every other ethnic group is banding together and they're using collaboration to excel whatever they're doing, economically, socially, there's power in numbers.
100%.
So if we continue to look at each other as competition, then we're going to continue to be stagnant, and we're going to, just be in the same place years from now. So
I can attest to why that exactly is happening, how it happens. All right, let's look at every other culture, Asian culture, right? They'll move here from China or Japan, whatever the case may be. They'll start a Chinese restaurant, right? This is not racism. This is not prejudice. This is literally, I worked at a Chinese food restaurant for like 2 years. Yeah, like I was a black person working at a Chinese food restaurant. I'm real cool with Chinese people and culture. This is just an observation. They'll come here. They'll bring their family members here, and whether it's a distant relative, a cousin, right, somebody in their same neighborhood, and they'll have that person working at that Chinese food restaurant.
Exactly.
Let them go to school, do everything, and then once they start a Chinese business, what do? They try and hire other Chinese employees or educate them, right? Caucasian people, if they're working at an engineering firm, they're going to put their cousin, their friend that went to the same school with them, even if that person doesn't have the same credentials or doesn't even qualify for the job. He's going to offer, before they even submit out put the job posting up, they're going to tell them like, hey, we have this opening for this position. They literally let these insider, they call them internal hires, right? Or external hires, excuse me. So they'll literally let them go to their friends and family and say, hey, there's this opening at my job. We need somebody. We'll train you on everything. And that person is white, and then they bring them on board, right? We could even talk about Jewish culture. They have Jewish businesses. They work with Jewish lawyers. They partner with other Jewish businesses, right? Literally, Jewish people, they keep their money within their community. However, when we look at black people, right, we're always trying to get one up on another. Or we're trying to overcharge, right? Or we're trying to get ahead as quickly as possible by jacking up our prices, not realizing majority of our customers are black people. You see what I'm saying? That's why a lot of black businesses can't get off of the ground, because we're not thinking about collaboration. We're just thinking about how to get ahead as quickly as possible. We're trying to think about competing with one another, competition, instead of collaboration and creativity. And if you look at our sports, right? I love basketball. I love football. But our sports, when you look at, it's mostly a black team playing against another black team.
Right.
So when you see this stuff on TV, right, you might not consciously be like in the moment, thinking about it, but subconsciously you're thinking about a more of a competitive nature. So when you get into business, you think about compete, dominance, right? And a lot of times it's hard for people to collaborate when we start thinking that, okay, if I collaborate with this person, now I gotta share some of my winnings. Right. Or I got to or I gotta, I can't do things like how no, competition comes with compromise. Literally, like not competition, collaboration comes with compromise. Like sometimes you gotta compromise on certain things. And not enough Black people are trying to collaborate with one another, trying to compromise and do things and trying to build various different communities together, like how Asians and and Jewish people are.
Let me add real quick though. When you say that Black people, they have competitive sports and things like that, I think that might be a good thing, bro, depending on how you look at it. Because in any sport, well, most sports have a team-based foundation, right? You have to have a team and work around a team in order to score this point or, win this game. If we think about, business, social gatherings, and if we look at finances as a collective effort, as a team, trying to, compete against, it doesn't sound good, but other nations or other ethnic groups like they do with us, then we can say, okay, how do we get the ball rolling how they do? How can we collectively score this point? All right. They're up 30 and it's about to be halftime. Like, how can we turn this game around collectively? Right. But it seems like everybody's just trying to, score on their own. When they get the ball, they want to score. They don't see that getting assists also wins the game.
Helps wins
right?
the game. Exactly.
Getting rebounds also helps wins the game. So I feel as though the fact that we have this beautiful nature as far as, being predominantly more skillful in certain things like sports, entertainment, music, and things like that, that could be used as an advantage. We just need to monetize those things better and stop looking for other people's platforms to showcase our skill sets. Because if we had, just imagine, bro, if we had our own NBA, we had predominantly all the players are Black who are very skillful. Don't get me wrong. The European motherfuckers is good as hell too. Luka, that boy cold. That nigga cold. I ain't gonna lie. But just imagine though. Imagine, and shout out to Ice Cube for making a big three. He's trying to do something, but how many people are getting behind him?
Exactly. See, this is what I'm talking about.
You get what I'm saying? Showing up for him.
And it's very upsetting that I gotta I'm not gonna interject religion into this, but it's very upsetting that money has become the god for a lot of people, right?
I see that.
Because when we really talk about it, right, the NBA has been going on for a very long time. We have multiple Black Hall of Famers. We have multiple Black millionaires, right?
Exactly.
A few Black billionaires from sports. But look at who are all the people that are owning these companies. White, old, fat men. They're fat. Why do they own a sports team? Let's really talk about it. The reason why is because they're good at business. They're good at making money. They're good at making money decisions. And the problem is, a lot of times when you make money decisions, sometimes that's not the most ethical decision, but it's the decision that brings the most profit. What do I mean by this is that sometimes I could give like an easy example. Like, let's say, what's an easy example? Like, let's say, damn, now I'm on the spot. I'm trying to think of something. Boom. The Affordable Connectivity Program. So the ACP was an internet program that the government came out with during 2020 to make internet services more affordable for people. Right, across their internet. So whether they were getting $20, $30, $50 off their internet bill, basically as of 2020 leading up to 2024, everybody was able to get free internet, even if it was very low speeds or just regular 300, 100 megabits download speed. Everybody was able to get access to the internet. When the ACP Affordable Connectivity Program went away, now everybody's bill is going to go up at least $20, $30. A lot of these internet companies, they could have, instead of making it go back up $20, $30, they could have, made it go up $10, $20. They could have reduced it. They could have made it still affordable but still been able to make profit from it.
Right.
Just don't let it go up so much. But instead, what did they do? They decided, we're going to let everybody bill get bumped up $30 because now that's more money. Imagine 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 people, their bill goes up $30. In 1 month, you just made billions of dollars. So instead of doing the thing that was more ethical, keeping their customer base,
Right.
or keeping their customers happy, they did the more monetary move, right? You feel me?
But that's what a lot of these big businesses do. You know what I'm saying? That's what they do. That's why I say we need to.
But that's my point.
We need to get away from that.
That's my point. Everybody has made their god money. Like that's why the big three, Ice Cube, is starting it. But why aren't more people trying to go over there to play? It's because the NBA is offering more money. You feel me?
That's true.
Why? You see what I'm saying? It's about money. He needs player. He needs promotion. He needs endorsement. He needs to get that out there.
He needs resources.
But what are people asking for? They're asking, oh, if you want to run this advertisement on ABC, money. The NBA is running an advertisement. You're a competitor. Why should I run your advertisement over them?
Peep this though.
You see what I'm saying?
Imagine if we had our own network. You know, bro.
You see what they did with Bill Cosby?
I know. They're going to try to imprison somebody, the next person to do that. But I feel as though, and I feel that that's what I mean when I say we're here, because they can do that easily, and for us to do that, Bill Cosby tried to do that. He gets thrown in jail. All these allegations. Not saying that none of them were true, but I mean, come out of nowhere when that happens. But I do also want to say this, man. Shout out to Kyrie, man. Kyrie Irving, hell of a basketball player.
Shout out to Kyrie Irving.
Doing 2020,
stuck to
bro.
His gun.
Come on,
and he's
bro.
Still playing right now.
Listen, that is
probably going to win a championship.
That is somebody to look up to, bro. If y'all looking up to anybody else that's a rapper or anybody you're looking forward to look up to, I would say Kyrie Irving might be one of them guys, because he's somebody who stands on business. He's very authentic. He knows what he means, and he means business. He has a lot of integrity.
And he's well educated too.
So educated. Shout out to the brother. And I just feel as though people like him, if they had his mindset on things, I feel as though we could come together, because he didn't let money move him. You know how much money he lost out on when he chose not to get vaccinated? You know how much ridicule he got because he's such a good player and a key player, and he probably cost his team, making the playoffs that year, but he didn't care. Why? Because money is not his God. He chose to be his authentic self and stand on what he believes in versus, oh, here, just take this paycheck and, take this jab on, you don't really know how that's affecting your health, right? So I feel as though if we could adopt, if there were more players who were like Kyrie, or more people of stature, or more people who had wealth, who had that mindset that he has, and I feel as though he's for the people as well, then we could collectively come together. Because how many people backed him up? I don't even know who backed him up. I mean, even LeBron came from him at once. Then he heard all the ridicule and was like, had the same energy or whatever, tried to back it up, but for the most part, man, he was on his island by himself. So I feel as though
it's because of fear.
Fear, for sure.
Because of fear. And this is why, I believe when Kanye said that slavery was a choice, he should have gave more context to it, because it was a choice. Yeah. It really was. And it was a choice that we decided to make because of fear.
Right.
We decided to because when you think about it, right, one plantation had 100 slaves minimum, right, or 30 minimum, and 1, 2, 3 slave masters. They'd even if they had guns, like muskets back in the day, like you not stopping 30, 40 grown, you feel me? Like they could have been
in numbers, bro.
They could have been, and don't get me wrong, there was multiple revolutions, right? There was multiple plantations that were burnt down, but then this kind of segues into our next episode, right, where they basically created a system where slaves felt as though that it was better for them to stay on the plantation than to leave.
Right.
And that's when I feel as though that's when you're making a conscious choice at that point.
I see.
You feel me? When now it's like, don't get me wrong, like, maybe you were manipulated into making that choice, which you were 100%. Slaves were manipulated into making that choice. Still definitely made a choice though. Right? I definitely want us to start taking, I don't want to say start taking more accountability, but start taking more ownership of where we are now, because that's the only way we're going to change the system. They're not going to change it.
Exactly.
Because they benefit from it. Like, you feel me?
I'm glad
so
you
we
said
can't
that.
point the finger and be like, oh, you did this to me, you did this to me. They're going to be like,
and for real,
you didn't do nothing to stop me. That's what
I want to interject. I think in terms of it being a race thing, I feel as though we should stop looking at that in that perspective. And the reason why I say that, because a lot of people of other ethnic, cultures, if they're in poverty conditions, they have the same, kind of hiccups as we do. Is like they want the system to change and things like that. Now, granted, if that person is white, he might have white privilege due to his skin color. But if he grows up in poverty, he has the same complaints that we do. And I feel as though it's really more of a social thing, like a social classism, than it is racism. Because what is it? The rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. So what do they keep doing? They keep miseducating us. They continue to keep us, at the bottom. And if we're looking at it in terms of race, then we're not going to see the real underlying issue, right? And the real underlying issue is the fact that we need to have financial freedom. We need to increase as far as, our education, to learn how to get more assets, to learn how to get more resources, to learn how to collaborate more, so that we can boss up and so that we stop needing them. Because the example of the slave is a good example, right? If we keep relying on a slave master to feed us and to, his compensation on when we do the work, then we're capped at how much we can actually do. We feel comfortable because there's an institution to keep us alive and keep shelter, over our heads and clothes on our back. But we can be way more as people if we learn how to change our mindsets, actually see that there's power in numbers, look to the left and right and try to collaborate. You understand what I'm saying? Change your perspective on things and try to have a new appetite as far as some of the things we're consuming. Yeah. But I think we should kind of hit them with the outro for this one.
Yeah, and one more thing before we segue out of here. I do believe as well what it really comes down to. So once we start collaborating and we start gaining this buzz, we start gaining popularity and notoriety. Can't let greed get to you. Can't let greed and egotism get to you. And the reason why I say this is because I actually had a debate with somebody about this the other day, man. And it's like, the game that they're playing is so calculative. It's really chess, not checkers. And what I mean by this is because I can't tell somebody, get closer with God. Because what do people usually do when they get closer with God, right? Religious, they start learning about turning the other cheek.
Oh, yeah.
But when you start reading the Bible, right, and you start realizing a lot of these phrases or saying, whether they were edited, whether they were changed, they're not counterintuitive to actually getting real life results in the real world. And what I mean by this is that the reason why these white people they're able to collaborate, get ahead, is because they're not thinking, I'm working with you because it's the right thing to do religiously. I'm working with you because long term, this is going to benefit me the most. I think that's what black people, we need to not be like them, but start thinking like them.
Adopt that mindset.
You feel me?
Absolutely.
Start moving like them, right? Start thinking, okay, hey, because at the end of the day, bro, just because somebody's Caucasian, that doesn't mean that they're going to do business with another Caucasian person just because they're Caucasian. They don't think like that. Yeah. We think, hey, we should do business with this other person because they're black, right? Black power. We want to keep it within the family, stuff like that. They're thinking, I'm doing business with this person because this is the best person to do business with, whether they're black or brown or white.
100%.
You feel me? They're just thinking long term about it, right? Now, they're not going to invite you to the cookout, though.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to invite you to the cookout, but in the boardroom meeting, you guys are best buds.
Yeah, right.
For sure. That's how they move. That's how they think, right? And I believe that since black people, we actually have true, genuine love for one another, and we genuinely want to see our whole community and our people rise. What happens is that we get to this place of collaboration and we get so emotionally invested that when a black person either do something wrong or maybe don't see eye to eye with us, we become so very defensive. We start becoming tribal.
Now we think all black people who do business with each other is going to be like that.
You feel me?
I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? But they're not like white people. They're thinking beyond the race aspect of it. You feel me? That's why they're able to get a Jay-Z and invite him to the white party and put him up on a pedestal as if he's the top echelon of black people. But I bet you he's still not in that back boardroom meeting.
Exactly.
You feel me? They'll do business with you because you're gonna make the money, but they're not gonna let you make the end all decision on the record label. Right? You feel me?
Right.
So I believe that we have to kind of start adopting some of these. I don't want to say adopt some of these traits. We gotta start really thinking like how they think.
Think business minded.
You feel me?
But also, you want to think for your brother as well. Like you want to put him on. But if he's not a good fit for the business that I'm trying to do,
you gotta hold him accountable and not tell him it's because you're black.
Exactly.
Bro. It's because bro, you're not meeting up to the standard that we need.
Exactly.
You feel me?
I feel like a lot of people make that mistake. We have to look past the fact that we trying to help our brother and sister out. Like, don't get me wrong. If they fit the role and they're able to help out and they're black, I mean that's a win-win. However, I don't feel as though we should just completely say, "Oh, I'm not collaborating with another black person just because of one experience." Now you know better. Okay, let me actually look at their resume. Let me actually see as far as some of the skills.
It's just about talking, just learning how to have better communication skills. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like even Dr. Umar, he talked about this. He said he was trying to build this school. He went to work with black people. So he went to a bunch of black contractors. Mm-hmm. They were taking months to get started. They were charging a lot for the materials and stuff like that, right? That black contract company, they were trying to get ahead as quickly as possible without trying to put in the legwork to get it, right? Napoleon Hill, one of his principles is a principle called going the extra mile. Sometimes you got to do something without expecting anything in return, and that's how you get rewarded.
100%.
He went to a Caucasian contracting company. They not only did the work for the school quicker and cheaper and better. Mm-hmm. Are you to say that he was wrong for working with white people? I mean, when you think about it, he went to black people first, though. Exactly. They were the ones that were making things difficult. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, my question to you, Dr. Umar, is like, how many black contract companies did you go to after that? Mm-hmm. Did you do, how much research did you do? How much accountability did you give them? Mm-hmm. Was there a contract signing? Did you guys have the conversation of, oh, like, hey, I need this done. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Or was it like a handshake between black men?
Right, I see.
You see what I'm saying? We're so worried about, oh, this is a business between black and brown. Mm-hmm. That we're not holding ourselves to that same. That's why, bro, when you brought up the whole contract thing, I was like, I'm with that.
For sure.
I'm with that because even though we're brothers, this is still a business that we're running.
Absolutely.
You feel me?
Absolutely.
And you could still have love for your business partner, but now you still keeping it, like, understand, like, yo, we're building this and we got to build this off a foundation, not just because we feel like doing it.
Not just off a handshake. Exactly. Oh, we both brothers, so we're going to get this done.
Nah. Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
That thing need to be in black and white.
You feel me? And that's how these Caucasian people are moving. And you could say that, it's real cold-hearted, it's real stern, but, at the end of the day, man, they're winning. At the end of the day, they're getting stuff done. And black people, like you starting a clothing brand, right? Think of, like, I'm about to give it to real perspective. I know this is you starting a clothing brand. You want to have models in your inner city come model your clothes, right? Because it's streetwear. Right. Models are showing up late. They're becoming entitled. They want to wear this. They don't want to wear that. Mm-hmm. You feel me? Yeah. You go work with another model who might be from a suburb or another place. They might charge you more, but they showing up on time. Mm-hmm. They modeling whatever you want to wear. You feel me? So how we carry ourselves, we got to start seeing ourselves that, man, I'm the shit, and I got to start really carrying myself like that. All black and brown.
Absolutely.
And once we start doing that, collaborating with each other is going to be easier because now we realize that we all have a standard that we have to meet.
For sure.
You feel me?
How you represent yourself as a black woman or a black man.
Mm-hmm. I think that's where real change starts happening, when we start holding ourselves to standard. A white person can't say, oh yeah, our drug dealers are killers, when everybody's pulling up in suits. And I'm not saying that we have to conform to their image. We have to conform to an image that we set for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because we weren't the ones that set this gangster image. Mm-hmm. We weren't the ones that set this diva image. Mm-hmm. That was something that they wanted to set for us.
Right. And we just adopted that to our culture, and now everyone has
thinking that was cool.
Yeah, they want to be that. They idolize people who do that. So
100%. Like even before the 70s, 80s, you see most black people, they were wearing suits. They were elegant. Mm-hmm. You feel me? Like we was holding ourselves to that certain kind of.
My favorite era, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. I always say, I feel like I was here before, but like I low key feel like I was born in the wrong time because I got such an old soul. But like, nah, I feel as though I changed my mindset on that. I feel as though I chose to be in this time that I am now, so that way I can bring some of the stuff that how it used to be and try to, implement that, try to put people on game on how we used to act, how we were representing ourselves, how we were dressing, how we were speaking and things like that. So
yeah, and then only once when we idolize history, idolize the past, and start learning from it, that's when we can start making the future different. Because if we just look at history, we don't do nothing about it, it's just going to repeat itself. Mm-hmm. You feel me? We got to look at history. You got to be like, okay.
Where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong?
Exactly.
What fried ice cream did we fall for?
And start realizing that, hey, listen, that slavery was a choice. Now when we get a choice, we're going to make it. We're not going to let them make it for us.
100%.
You feel me? Like even with certain things, with them sending money off to certain countries and stuff like that, like we just sit back letting it happen.
Yeah,
that is a choice
for sure.
When you don't say nothing, you are making a choice.
You know how much we used to protest back then, bro? Literally over the smallest things. But what did that do? That caused the uprising. And there were certain laws that were implemented after that because they got tired of us protesting. Exactly. Some of the protests turned into riots. They got tired of the business getting burnt down. So there was an effect to doing these things. And
we got to be smart too. We can't protest and be burning down black and
our
brown
own business. That don't make no sense.
That don't make sense.
Burn down their business.
I've seen that in George Floyd. Like
yeah, that don't make no sense.
I'm like, yo, like we gotta really think about it. That's an Asian owner. That's a Hispanic owner of that barbershop. Go downtown. Go burn the building down. Yeah. What it is that you're trying to do things, but you're not trying to do things smart. Right, you're trying to just do things off of impulse, off of emotions. Let me go burn down this convenience store because it's the closest to me, and there's no security system. I'm not gonna really get caught, and it's gonna set down a message. What message did it set? If you go down to the building, if you go downtown and you burn down this big ass building, I'm telling you to do it, right? Because you know it's owned by whoever, right? And you know that he's a known racist, whatever the case may be. Yeah, you might do more time, but I bet you it's gonna leave a bigger message.
Absolutely.
You feel me? Yeah, but so that's the thing, right? Nobody really wants to be that. Nobody wants to be like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, right? Dr. Sebi. They knew that their life was at danger with the message that they were preaching. Exactly. Nobody wants to be it's called
the black sheep
sacrificial offer. Right? Okay. Nobody wants to be that sacrificial lamb that takes that bullet that really sets the tide of revolution, right? Or real big change. That's why they don't. That's why they'll throw rocks and hide their hand.
Or Huey P. Newton. He was one of the other ones.
Huey, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
He was one of the ones for sure.
We got to know that, yo, if we're going to pick up our guns, we got to stick to it.
No, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. We got to stick to it because that's the only way they're going to take us serious.
And we got to find who the real enemy is.
I'll tell you, bro. I think the real enemy, we'll say that for the next episode. We'll say that for the next episode. We'll say that for the next episode.
On that note, man, we talked about a whole bunch. We definitely want y'all to let us know what y'all think in the comments. Let us know any other topics you guys want us to discuss. Let us know your favorite topic that we went over. Let us know how you think, some of the problems that we went over is affecting us today. But with that being said, I would say, until the next episode, I want you guys to like and share this one. And then, we have some things in the description that you guys could check out as well.
Yeah, make sure to like, subscribe. You guys can continue the conversation that we're having in the comment section, right? Talk either amongst yourselves, right? Because we're going to be definitely checking the comment sections. And all our socials, right? As far as like Instagram, TikTok, where to find us at. It's all going to be linked in the description below. So check those out. Follow us, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next Power to the People episode. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Deuces.